All right, welcome back for the episode of Carnivore Trade. Today is Friday, July 21st, 2023. If you're not done so already, please give the video a thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com for swing trading alerts and analysis. Anyways, let's get into it today. So markets here, kind of a nothing burger. So it is definitely an OPEX Friday, OPEX pin job. From what I can see, looks like 45.50 is probably where we're going to close. If we break through that, 45.40 and then 45.60 really on the are really the max upside downside that I'm seeing right now. So really just 10 points in either direction. And again, that's basically the high of the day. Actually, it's a little bit higher than that. And then basically the low of the day on the downside. So nothing really going on here. Volume definitely on the lighter side, as you'd expect. 40 million shares. That's why I'm doing this video so early. Again, a little bit of a throwaway. We don't want to make too much out of it. We had a gap up, a little bit of a fade. Tech still on the weaker side, so triple Qs are green, but only up, fractionally versus the spiders being up about 1/3%. Apple, Microsoft under pressure. Tesla still under pressure, although back to the flat line now. Netflix is down as well. I think that wants to get to 400. Possibly even to 380 there. And Tesla, a little bit of a tail candle, so that's a little bit of an improvement there. We'll have to watch that next week. But 240 and then 220 are your big support levels there after that big rising wedge breakdown yesterday with earnings. Right now, we're looking at the markets here. SPX, again, 45.50. Looks like the pin job there. We may see a little bit more quietness Monday, Tuesday. There are earnings next week, so that's something the market's going to pause and wait on. And of course, the all-important FOMC on Wednesday. Now, 25 basis points is baked into the cake. We already know that that's coming. So if we look at the 2-year, that's at 4.84 currently, 2-year yield. And Fed funds rate's 5.08. That should go up to about 5.25 to 5.3. It's depending on kind of where the effective rate sits, but 5 to 5.25. So that will get raised. That is baked in the cake. It's all about the verbiage. Does Jerome Powell talk about quantitative tightening? What does he say moving forward about recession? What does he say about inflation? What do they intend to do in the future? Right now, the market is they've said that they've got to price in, or they said they're going to do one more rate hike. We'll see how that kind of plays out. And obviously the verbiage will move the market. Again, there's not much for me to say here. So we've got, we're up 25 basis points, 4,500 your support level. Nice trend line there, upsloping with the 20 moving average. So right in that area, if we take that out, then it's right down here, 50 moving average. And then your big level on a bigger correction is in this area. I don't think we really get into that area till probably, or at least start to move in that direction towards maybe the latter part of the summer as we get into seasonality. There's a lot going on there. We don't want to get too ahead of ourselves right now. Again, resistance on the upside if we are to push up, and we can actually just take this and let's just move it up here now. We're going to just go to 4,600. All right, so very simple, and it's not that far away. So right there, and then of course you have that little pivot right there, 46.30, 46.35 and change. So next level, we basically touched earlier this week. Nothing to say we can't get there early next week as well. We also have earnings again. But right now, it's been a little bit of a sell to news with earnings. We talked about Tesla and Netflix, a lot of others, TSM, some of these other companies have reported, softer earnings. And, when you have a big run up like this, and especially in tech, a lot of the good news is going to get priced in and you're going to get kind of a sell to news. At least that's typically how it can work sometimes. So either way, market's holding up here. Again, triple Q's next big level is 390. Interesting though, we are going to close the week below 380, and actually the Nasdaq's going to close red on the week, which is a little bit of a chart crime, I know. But we went up there and basically into that 390 pivot, and now we're going to close below 380. So a little bit of a shooting star there with good volume. So, it's picking up a little bit. On the weekly, not crazy volume, but definitely something significant. Again, same thing with the Qs. You take out this trend line in the 20 moving average, there's your next one right with the 50, and then your bigger levels down here. It's really obvious. I don't really see any issues reading this chart here. And then of course the 390 level, you get above that, it's up to the even number of 400. So these levels are pretty simple. The market's making it easy here. What's not easy is the direction, right? So we know we're vertical here. That can signal exhaustion. You can't open up fresh longs here, but shorting is very difficult. It's fighting the trend. Now, if you wanted to short with a stop above the high, that's certainly something you could do, but I don't really have a sell signal. I do have a minor sell signal right now. I would say it could be a major sell signal, but I don't have any confirmation to really say. It's really just one. And, I have plenty of other signals that are bullish right now. So ultimately, I do think that this comes down pretty sharply. But right now, you got to respect the market, and the trend is up here. So any case, those are the levels we're watching there. Russell 2000, that is a little bit on the more bullish side now. So speaking of bull indicators, we have a weekly close above this red bar high here, 191.74. So that is a negation of this weekly inside bar pattern. You are still going into a little resistance here with this pivot. That was a failed bull flag, right? So inside bar broke down. So right in here, there's likely going to be bag holders. And you still have a big monthly, bear wedge, bear consolidation, as long as you're inside of this channel. Could we still close the month below this monthly red bar? It's possible. But you'd still be inside of this green bar here too. So it's kind of I know it's a little complicated there, but that's kind of what we're looking at right now. You close back below this on a monthly, and we'll kind of look at it. But right now, I'll give the Russell the upside bias. One of the reasons I'm going to do that is because, and I did a video on this the other day, KRE and KBE, make up a large portion of the IWM, and typically, so it's about 20%. Typically, these two ETFs, or I should say regional banks in general, have a very low beta, very low, like very low. Right now, they have a very high beta. And so when the KRE is green, it's going to make the Russell green, especially when the KRE is up 4% like it was the other day. So that's going to help out the Russell there. But right now, it got above that level, and we'll respect it moving forward. If we pull back, you've got support at 190 and, of course, 191.75, 20 DMA right there as well. So pretty simple there. Dow green, 10 straight days in a row. Only done that a few times, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, Dow still has that 353, 354 level, which we basically tested the other day. And then you got these pivots right around 355. So that's going to be your short-term resistance there. But nice push higher there on the Dow. One little caveat, though, and I do think we are going to see rotation. I don't like seeing the Dow lead, just FYI. I want to see the Nasdaq and the Russell lead. The Russell is starting to take a little bit of leadership here, but I need to see that more. I don't want to see the Dow leading. Blue chips leading, that's not good. And that does signal here that maybe the market's getting a little bit, telling us here that we're getting close to a recession, that blue chips are starting to push up and tech is starting to lag. By the way, speaking of tech, rebalancing will take effect Monday. So those big tech names could see a little bit of rebound. Well, I think we're going to see the rebalancing anyway, but they're going to make up less of a portion of the Nasdaq, and I think maybe you start to see some correcting in those names as everything else gets a bid. Anyways, semiconductors here today up 1% after the big sell yesterday. Still holding trend, so 20 moving average, that's hanging in there. If you break that and you get through 150, you'll have some support at the 50 moving average. But as far as technical support outside of those moving averages, there's a pretty good air pocket right here, right? I mean, you gapped from 129, to 137, and then kept going. So, if this starts to do technical damage, I think you can, push down pretty quickly. Double top held. But we'll continue to watch that. Right now, it's holding trend there, so we'll just leave it at that for the moment. IGV also up as well. That's still pretty extended, even with the pullback yesterday. But just an inside day here today. If it's going to go higher, I think it needs to do some consolidation and backing and filling. Dow transports here holding up just fine. CSX reported though and took a pretty good hit, so that's weighing down a little bit. But everything else is okay. Jets having a decent day. XPO, which has been a strong one, that came in a little bit. So Rider Systems, yeah, that's holding up all right. But transports here slightly red on the day, nothing too crazy. And we still have, we still established above this pivot on a weekly close. So that's a good sign. But we are into resistance right around 16.5 right now. So again, and it's a little overbought here too. So again, just bear that in mind. All right, back over to interest rates real quick so we can just talk about the charts. 2-year holding up well. I don't see any problems. You're above the moving averages. You get above this pivot, 4.887. This is going to break through 5 and break through double top. The Fed is going to buy itself time, though. because of that rate hike. So this should not roil markets unless it really takes off. If you break through this pivot high, even if the Fed raises rates, if you break through 5.25, after that, then we could see some problems going on here. But right now, not the case yet. 5-year holding up well, just stalling out at the 20. This is your big resistance there, 4.23. 10-year, 20 MA right there, and then again your resistance there is 3.97. 30-year, we'll just call it 4.03. But again, yields holding up. Even if they do sell off at some point, they're not going to go that much lower. That's been my base case for a long time, and that continues to be. XHB, red 2 days in a row. Again, another chart crime. Home builders not allowed to be red. But in any case, down just 8 cents. No real problems here. We did kind of go into almost a double top, pretty close here. But either way, it's holding up okay. ITB still made new all-time highs. That did come in a little bit, and that is slightly off the lows. DR Horton, which we talked about yesterday, pretty good gap and crap, although it is getting a little bit of bounce. And, to its credit, it's, good sell yesterday, sell the news, but it's holding trend. So we're not going to make too much out of it just yet. VNQ REITs, nice pop. So you're getting above this trend line here, starting to peak above it. I want to see a little bit more. It does look like a weekly close at this point. Could it be, could I do this? And let me just try and fix this here. It's going to mess me up. Sorry, just bear with me there. Could you take it through the highs like that and say, okay, it's not broken out yet? Sure. I mean, in fact, it's probably a little bit better that way. But either way, no problems here in the pattern. And if this consolidates more, this can get through that and get up to that 90 handle. So VNQ, there's another sector there that could see some rotation here as we see some selling in tech. So anyways, XLF, nice pop there. That is into some resistance though, 35.50 with that breakdown bar. But you are going to get above this kind of weekly channel here on a weekly close. 100-week moving average right in that area. 36 will be resistance as well. So coming into a pretty good zone there. But the chart is much better now, as is KBE. Weekly close now above this trend line. That can get to 46. KRE weekly close above this trend line. That can get to 55. I like these potentially for on the long side on pattern, believe it or not. Broker dealers here very close to new all-time highs. I think the new all-time high is, yes, we just almost made one there. So 519.04, 5 points away. Big move there for XBD. We'll see it. Maybe it backtests this trend line here. That would be interesting. Take a look at that previous rising wedge. Nice breakdown, clean pattern. We talked about that a bunch of times before. And you can see right there, they kind of crisscross right in that zone. Lines up pretty perfectly. We'll see if that ends up getting backtested. All right, let's get over to crude here. Interesting stuff here. I got to show you some stuff here in crude. I know I haven't talked about crude. It's being interesting a lot lately, but now we might have something to talk about. If you're watching every day, you know what these trend lines are. Obvious one right there. If we flip to a weekly, there's our big one. And then weekly red bar high, 76.69. We're above that. So 77.12. We got until 5 p.m. I know I'm doing the video a little early, but we're above that. If we flip into an hourly, Bears got a little bit of time. They got 3 hours left to whack this down. I don't think they're going to do it because the COMEX already closed. The settlement's already out, at 2:30. I'm doing this video at 2:50 right now. You think if it was going to reject, it would have done it by then. They wouldn't wait until 5 p.m. But it's possible. But either way, you get a close above this. Makes crude very interesting. That would elevate my price target for crude to 82.72. So crude gets interesting here. That's not a license to buy it, okay? You're still going to be going up into that resistance there. But if you get a good pattern, then we can examine it. So crude is interesting to me right now as we're getting above that big nexus. So keep that on your radar next week. XLE holding up as well. That still has to get above this pivot here, 85.08. I think Exxon reports next week. So we'll see. That will obviously move the XLE. But that's getting a nice little pop there. XOP, new weekly closing high there. back above this pivot, back above this one. So we told you 135 would be resistance. It was. We pulled back, and now we're right back up there. Next big level is going to be around 140. And then you've got that crisscross right there, 140, 145. OIH pulling back as well. This needs to do more backing and filling, but I like it as a long, as long as it can give us some good consolidation. Nat gas inside day here, big surge yesterday and just a pause there. So that is, very common after a big move. I think that may want to test $3 next week, but that is holding up okay. And then the dollar index did get a close. We talked about this level yesterday, 161. We got a close above that, so that's decent. You negated that kind of bear flag that you were starting to put in, but you still got like a lot of work to do, right? We got to get above the 20 moving average. You got to get above 102. There's a lot of stuff that has to happen before the dollar can negate all this. If you get a weekly close above 102.56, then all of a sudden you have a huge bear trap on your hand, or a dollar bear trap on your hands. But that's the big level that we're watching going into next week, if and when that gets up there. But right now, dollar trend is still down, so just respect it. Over to gold here. Gold kind of a flat day, flattish to down just $5. Again, weekly, still rejected that 20-week moving average. So I know everybody was like FOMOing about gold the other day, but if it was strong, why couldn't you get above 1971.80, that red bar, and the 20-week moving average? I'm not saying it can't do that, but if this was like set to break out, you'd think that would happen here. Doesn't mean it can't, but just a little bit of a, something that catches my eye there. If it consolidates more, there's nothing to say it can't, but we'll just keep that on the radar here. And then same thing with silver pulling back off 25.50. I gave that out as a level to you guys. This one, we'll see how it reacts when it gets into the 20 moving average there. But that did have a nice pop on the weekly here as well, and then again went into that red bar. We'll see how that behaves. But silver shaping up much better, obviously, over the last couple of weeks. Platinum reacted at 960, so that got a little reaction there. Nothing crazy. Again, still not doing anything with that yet, and not, same thing with palladium. I would like to get that cheaper. Copper, another kind of a nothing burger day again. 370 is support. If you get above this pivot, then you can go test 4, maybe 403 or so on copper. Lastly, Bitcoin getting a little bit of a bid here in the afternoon, reclaiming 30,000. Again, nothing's really changed here. Below 28.6 is a little bit of weakness, but right now that's a bull flag on the weekly, and that looks fine to me. So I don't really see any issues there, but I'd like to see it consolidate more. The only issue I have with it, and I told you that yesterday, is that it's almost too clean of a pattern, right? Everybody can see it. I don't like it when you get, especially on something like Bitcoin where there's tons of eyes on. Not to say the pattern's broken. It's not. It's perfect. But just be careful there, I guess. Anyways, again, spiders here just chopping around. Nothing really going on. It's, they're just going to pin it here to 45.50. Next week, earnings, FOMC, simple. We break this trend line. We can go lower. 4,600 should be your resistance on the upside. Maybe 4,630 would be your kind of next level there on the SPX. Anyways, guys, going to wrap up here. You guys take care. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com. Talk to you guys all next week.